Hello, viewers. Welcome back to another engaging episode of Manager's Mantra, where we connect with industry leaders who are shaping the future of business management. Today, we have with us Mr. Raman Chopra, CEO of Caparo Power and a member of the CII Tamil Nadu Task Force on Renewable Energy. Interestingly, Raman's journey into the energy sector began in finance. After spending more than a decade managing treasury, banking relationships, foreign exchange, and capital strategy, he realized that one challenge kept coming for businesses across industries: access to reliable and affordable power. This triggered his move to Caparo. Without waiting further, let's jump into this insightful discussion.
Hi, Raman. Very good afternoon and welcome to this new session of Manager's Mantra. We are really glad to have you with us today, and we are really hopeful and looking forward to this interaction, which we expect to be a great one.
Hi, Abhishek. Thank you so much for inviting me. And likewise, I look forward to interacting with you in a very productive and fruitful manner.
Sure, great. So let's start discussing the questions, Raman. Raman, as
Mhm.
all of us know, that change is perhaps the only truth in life. And we all of us have been evolving, all the industries have been evolving, but perhaps the power and energy section is one of the most dynamic sectors. Now, how do you think the
Yeah.
power and energy sector evolved over the past few years? What do you think have been some of the major factors that kind of disrupted the sector?
So I would say over the last few years, it has been more about building reliability and not focusing on capacity because for 2 decades, the country was building capacity. Now we have substantial amount of capacity developed in the country. The focus now is shifting more towards building reliability. So, if you ask me in terms of disruptors, I would say number one disruptor has been the tariffs of the renewable sector, which have gone down considerably. And that has led to an increased penetration of the renewables in the market. Second has been very recently the geopolitical crisis, and which has led to volatility in the natural gas market. Now, natural gas also forms a part of the energy ecosystem in the country, and it supplies the natural gas is supplied for the power industry. So we have seen the natural gas market move from the sellers to a buyer's market and back to the seller's market in the past 3 4 years because of various events leading to geopolitical uncertainty. One of the other disruptor has been the new users of power that has emerged. It has been more focused towards electricity oriented manufacturing, EVs, data centers. EVs as a concept is picking up very steadily in the country. Data centers as a concept is still at an exploratory stage, but gradually moving forward, it would also become a huge power guzzler. So, if you ask me, these are three main disruptors that have I have witnessed in the past few years in the power generation and distribution sector.
Thank you so much, Raman. Raman, AI is easily the buzzword today. And with that
Yeah,
comes the demand for data centers. And
yeah,
perhaps we are seeing nowadays a data center led urbanization and industrialization. But there are a
yeah.
few concerns which you have very rightly pointed out in a recent article that you wrote. You have highlighted that India still lacks a national framework governing the energy, water, and grid implications of data center expansion. Now, how can one such framework address the concerns over the massive energy consumption by these data centers?
See, if you look at it, the US is the most mature economy when it comes to data centers. So I took the example of the United States and the challenges that it has faced in the recent years in the development of data centers and used those examples to suggest a few important points that can be taken for developing a national data center framework for India because we now understand what happened in the US and we still have a 3 to 5 year window as we mature into the data center economy, the AI based data center economy. So the learnings from the US we can replicate in India. So broadly speaking, a few pointers that you can take in the national data center framework for India is number one, When the states are allotting a particular data center to a company, it should not only factor in the availability of optic fiber cables and land, it should also, most importantly, factor in the availability of uninterrupted regular power, as well as what is the kind of water stress that data center will bring in that particular area. Second, as one of the framework, what a data center can look at, the framework in a data center can look is the fact that the concept of on-site generation is not totally encouraged in our country as of now. So by on-site generation, I mean setting up a power plant right in the vicinity of the data center so that there is no stress which is created on the government grid. Now, on-site generation can also combine itself with the concept of tri-generation, which I've highlighted in my article. Now, tri-generation is a concept where the engine which is producing power, the waste heat that is coming out from that engine can be recycled back and can be used for the air conditioning load for a data center. So you are using both the power from a engine as well as the waste heat. So the circularity will lead to lesser consumption of water for that particular data center also. So in terms of framework, I think these could be the main points that can be seen as we evolve into a more mature AI-based data center economy.
Thank you so much, Raman. Very insightful.
Mm.
Raman,
Great.
we are living at a times where probably we are seeing an increased focus on green energy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living at an unprecedented times where, all of us talking about the transition to green energy. But then amid this transition to green energy, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the power and energy sector? Because, at the same time, the demand for power is also increasing. So
Yeah.
there lies the challenge of probably getting back to the fossil fuels for power generation. So, what, according to you, are the biggest challenges considering all these factors, and how can young leaders tackle this?
That's a very important question in the current scenario because what we are witnessing right now is curtailment in the green energy sector. So curtailment is basically whatever green energy is getting generated, what part of that green energy gets wasted. That's basically curtailment. So it is not because there is any issue in the quality of the green energy that is getting generated. We have ample capacity. We have very highly world-class solar parks which we have developed. However, that the power that is getting generated in those solar parks is not getting efficiently transmitted to the end user. So the biggest bottleneck or the biggest challenge which we are facing is the transmission and distribution, the lack of availability of a very robust and a very widely spread transmission and distribution infrastructure. Having said that, a lot of work is being done by various state governments and the central government as well in the past few the last few months as they understand this problem because the curtailment issue gets highlighted mostly during the summer months because the generation peaks, so the curtailment peaks. So so developing an efficient transmission and distribution network which connects these solar parks to the end user is, I feel, the biggest bottleneck, the biggest challenge, and also the biggest business opportunity in the power and energy sector in the next 4 5 years.
Thank you, Raman. Um, as we discussed earlier, a lot of our viewers will be the management students, the young
Yeah,
and the bright minds being shaped in the different management students and B schools across the country. A lot of the
right.
students would be aspiring to join the power and energy sector after completing their MBAs. Now,
Yeah.
what do you think are some of the best opportunities for management students in the sector?
As I mentioned in my previous answer, the generation, transmission, and distribution sector presents a great opportunity. In terms of creating a bigger profile for the management students, I believe the power and energy sector has multiple and various opportunities which are present as of now. The only thing which I would say is that one has to develop an instinct for working in the sector. What I would say is Number one, that you need to start, as you start your career, you need to be present in a power plant. You cannot learn the concepts of power generation and management in without actually being present in a power plant. So being available in a power plant is most important. Second, the opportunities also are coming from the regulatory side. It is it is essential for a management student to be able to understand the various regulations, because they're very dynamic. They keep changing every month. They keep getting updated. The Central Electricity Regulatory Commission takes a lot of information from the Western world and blends it to the Indian context and develops various regulatory papers. So it's important for them to understand the regulatory aspects. In addition to this, it is also important that the management students develop that instinct of questioning, at the back of their mind, how would this regulation be actually applied in a real world situation, because the regulations have been developed keeping in mind taking learnings from the Western world and trying to put them in the Indian context. But the actual implication of these regulations will only come when they are genuinely tested in the real time environment, which will be done from a management student, or ultimately as they develop into business leaders in the power and energy sector.
Raman, you yourself have been a management student, and
Yeah.
then you have successfully transitioned, shifted to a corporate career, and very well established now. A lot of the students would be, very interested to know your journey, the learnings that you picked up. So, looking back, what probably are some of the most important learnings from your MBA B school days that helped you shape your career?
See, uh, B school gives you 2 years of both practical as well as the real world, and also the knowledge which comes from the books. And I would say, when you're in a B school, you get to see multiple industries in the form of case studies. You get to see how these case studies are actually leading to the development of the corporate sector. But when you move out of the B school, you get into the real world. So the transition is different. The expectations that normally a management student or a B school graduate would have would be different when he's starting his first job, or the job after his graduation. And then as they transition, as they move higher up in the corporate ladder, they would understand that the challenges of a particular company are not only linked to the industry where the company is operating, they are also inherent to that particular company as well. So for me, the most important learning that I carried from my B school was to be open to learning, always to be ready to learn, always to be as a leader, always to be standing at the back and trying to support everybody in the team, always trying to take the examples what are happening in the market and try and as best as possible to one's ability, try and use and incorporate those examples in your day-to-day working in your role. So just to summarize, number one, be humble, always be open to learning. Number two, be be at the back of the queue as a leader. Try to support your team in every way possible. And number three, try to incorporate whatever you're learning in your day-to-day life into your corporate life as well, because most of them are intertwined. So that's basically the three key learnings I would say for a student or management graduate who's passing out and looking at a career in the power and energy or any sector as for that matter.
Raman, you have touched upon most of the points that I intended to ask you in the last question of the session. But looking
Mm.
beyond this, any other indispensable skills you think you look for in a candidate during the hiring process? And one last piece of advice or suggestion that you think would be the most helpful to students joining the sector?
See, the most important skill that I look for in a candidate will not come from his technical knowledge, will not come from his ability to crunch numbers, will not come from his analytical skills or his or her analytical skills. But the most important skill that I look for in a candidate is integrity. Now, having said that, integrity is something which you cannot gauge from one interview or one interaction of 40, 45, 50, 1 hour initially. However, as as uh, as various team members evolve in their career, it is very critical to understand that if you have to go far in the corporate sector, in your corporate life, and develop as a leader and as somebody who's managing thousands of uh, people, thousands of both blue collared and white collared employees. The most important skill that will take you ahead in life is integrity, and that is something which is absolutely non-negotiable. That is something which has to be present whether you are at a junior manager level or at an MD and CEO level. And that is something which only should grow as you grow in your life and your corporate career, and not and it is something which should not be traded for any bigger benefit.
Thank you so much, Raman. That would inspire and motivate a lot of management students out there looking to join the sector. Thank you
Yeah.
once again for joining in today and taking out your valuable time and agreeing to participate in this interaction. We are really looking forward to stay in touch with you and hopeful of having you again in any of the future sessions of BSmart Business Standard. Thank you so much, Raman.
Thank you, Abhishek. It was a pleasure meeting you and interacting with you, and all the best to you and Business Standard team. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap on this episode of Manager's Mantra. Thank you, Raman, for sharing your thoughts and providing career tips to the student. Be smart viewers, we hope you found this conversation helpful. Share your thoughts with us at bsmart.edit@bsml.in. Follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram for more such insightful and inspiring content. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing.